Hello, and welcome to the next instalment in our series on the parables of Jesus. This week we are looking at 3 parables around the subject of wisdom and foolishness. These are the parables of the talents, the parable of the rich fool, and the parable of the 10 virgins. I would encourage you to take time to read each of them afresh. The parable of the talents is about using what you have been given, not squandering or hiding it away, but using it wisely. We have all been given gifts from God, whether these are literally talents, as in skills, or whether it's resources, time, opportunities, or indeed something else. Whatever we have been entrusted with by God, there is an expectation that we will use it. To those who invested their talents and did something with what they had, the Master's response was, "Well done, good and faithful servant." This is the response we want to hear from God when our time comes. The one who hid what they were given and did nothing with it, the Master's response was, "You wicked and slothful servant." What a contrast. So why did that servant not use what he had been given? The parable tells us that his reasons or excuses for not doing anything with his talents was because he thought the Master was a hard man and he was afraid. Fear can cripple us if we allow it to, and can stop us from doing anything if we let it. Sometimes we just have to do things scared and trust that God is with us. If we never stretch ourselves or push our boundaries, then the boundaries will never change, and we will not move forward, staying bound by whatever we allow to hold us back. Sometimes it might not work out as we had hoped or planned, and we'll probably get some stuff wrong along the way, but it is better than hiding away. No matter your views on the Bethel Church in Redding, California, I find it interesting that their school of supernatural ministries requires a person to fail at least 3 times before they can progress. The philosophy here is take a risk, allow yourself to get it wrong, and pick yourself up and go again. It's a don't give up and keep trying attitude that is required, for hiding away is foolishness. Moving on to the parable of the 10 virgins, this parable is about being ready for the day that Christ returns. We do not know the day or time when Christ will return. It could be tomorrow, it could be in 10 years, it could happen outside of our lifetime. We just don't know. However, being ready for his arrival is paramount. Prepare for what is ahead. Make sure you equip yourself with what you need so you don't miss out on the wedding feast and you are not literally caught napping. In this parable, the equipping was oil for their lamps so that they did not burn out. This can be translated in many ways, including to not let your own light go out. Do everything in your power to keep your light fed and to not allow it to grow dim. Pray, read your Bible, worship, and spend time with other believers, encouraging one another. Staying close to Jesus is the key. We should seek his presence above all things. I have been challenged recently to find or make quiet spaces in my day that are purposely carved out for dedicated time with him, rather than just catching the odd moment. This can be pretty difficult between work, family, and not to mention all the other activities in between. There just isn't much space left. I can't say I'm fully there yet, but I am encouraged that a sacrifice of my time to purposely pursue him will be worth it. Martin Luther once said, "I am so busy now that if I did not spend 3 hours a day in prayer, I could not get through the day." I would like to read you a poem that I read recently, which summarises this beautifully. I got up early one morning and rushed right into the day. I had so much to accomplish that I didn't take time to pray. Problems just tumbled about me and heavier came each task. Why doesn't God help me, I wondered. He answered, "You didn't ask." I wanted to see joy and beauty, but the day toiled on grey and bleak. I wondered why God didn't show me. He said, "But you didn't seek." I tried to come into God's presence. I used all my keys at the lock. God gently and lovingly chided, "My child, you didn't knock." I woke up early this morning and paused before entering the day. I had so much to accomplish that I had to take time to pray. The final of our 3 parables is the parable of the rich fool. This parable talks of a rich man who seems to have too many crops to store them. Instead of sharing them, he decides that he will tear down the barn he currently has and build a newer, bigger, better one in its place. However, that night he dies. Hoarding his crops has been of no benefit to him. Jesus tells us to store up our treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. We may have nothing as far as the world is concerned, but we are rich indeed if we have Jesus. We are not to hoard or refrain from giving what may be a blessing to others. We are told that if we have 2 coats, then we should give one to someone who does not. Such a simple example, but such a profound application. I think we're all guilty, in this part of the world particularly, for having more than we need. I know for a fact that I have several coats, and probably more shoes than necessary, to name but a few things. Giving them away to my neighbour might not be the appropriate application of this passage for us, as my neighbour might just give me a strange look, and accept begrudgingly, but giving to those and helping those in need when we see a need is something we can do. God has a heart that aches for the poor and those who are marginalised. As Alex shared a few weeks ago when we last met together, there are some things that in our high priority category, that he described as his 7 to 9 category, that should simply make our blood boil. Things that we are so passionate about that we just have to do something. For example, this might not be us directly feeding the poor or going on the streets, homing widows and orphans, but we can support causes that are already set up to help those in need, and supporting with whatever we do have. These are our talents. You can also prayerfully intercede for these things. All of this is storing up treasures in heaven. King Solomon asked for wisdom, and God was pleased with his response. It is too easy to seek after the things of this world, but wisdom is something to be highly valued. And the great thing is, all we have to do is ask. It says in James, "But if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it will be given to him." So, ask. It is wise to use what we are and what we have been given, to bless those around us and to not hoard for ourselves, and to be ready for Jesus' return. Let us be wise and pursue Jesus and his presence above all things, seeking his heart for what we see around us. Take care.